This meeting is being recorded.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kate Wexell, and I'm the founder and executive director of The Compass. And here with me today, I have Leisha Toory. She is a student at Memorial University in Newfoundland, Canada. And then she's also the founder of the Period Priority Project. So, Leisha, could you tell me what is the Period Priority Project if you had to describe it in your own words?
So the Period Priority Project is an advocate for menstrual equity. And what we do is we try to make period products accessible to everyone who needs them. And we don't limit to just the distribution of disposable pads and tampons, but we also distribute menstrual cups and period underwear. We also have a podcast where we discuss various topics such as endometriosis, IBD and menstruation, navigating menstruation as a plus size individual, just kind of keep the conversation going on periods. We also host presentations at school just to kind of amplify the menstrual health education. And we also host free reusable cloth pad sewing workshops for students. And what else do we do? We have a forum where folks can share, any useful advice they have on navigating menstruation for the first time. And yeah, so I guess that's a bit of what the Period Priority Project
Mhm.
is.
Yeah, so is the form then shared on social media or on your website, or what's done with that? Because people should definitely fill it out if they have stories to submit.
Oh, absolutely. So it's on our Instagram. We have a link in our bio, and it's called the People Who Period Initiative. So they can just like click on it and fill out. I think there's what is an advice that you would give to someone who has their first period, or what is something they wish they knew, and also what does their period care kit look like?
Okay. Yeah, and so you mentioned that you are operating on a college campus. So what's the overall scope of the Period Priority Project? Like, where do you guys operate? Like, what's your
Um,
target group that you're mainly focusing on?
so it's not really it's not really on campus. It's how do I put it? So the project is just like me at the moment. And what I do is I get donations, and I just keep it at home because I don't have a storage area right now. And then I connect with like organizations, shelters across Newfoundland and Labrador, as well as Saskatchewan, Yukon, just a bit everywhere across Canada. And I either have them shipped based on the monetary donations that I receive from the community, or I have them dropped off to the shelters. I think on campus, what I did is I asked the facilities management if we could set up free menstrual product stations. So they're just baskets filled with pads and tampons, and they're in the gender inclusive washrooms. So that's kind of our presence on campus is just through the free menstrual product stations for now. Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, so what was your original purpose of wanting to do this project and start this organization? Like, why is menstrual health and having access to menstrual products so important?
Growing up for me, it was sort of this area where I felt like I couldn't ask questions openly about my body, about what I'm going through, and I didn't know when to reach out for help, which was, it just didn't make sense for me at that time because we did learn about it in school, but then I didn't understand the reaction that came from the community. So it's something that I always wanted to like make a change. And then coming to St. John's, I'm a poli-sci student. So I thought maybe doing something like a local grassroots initiative would kind of help me into policy implementation, have a bigger impact on the community. And I also, doing my research, I saw the poverty rate, the period poverty rate here. And I feel like it's a misconception that period poverty is only prevalent in third world countries, but it's prevalent everywhere. And especially in northern communities where we still have boiling water advisories, so they can't really manage their periods properly and as everyone should. So that's a problem, and that kind of is what made me establish, the project and just kind of help folks through that. I do know that it's a band-aid solution and there more needs to be done. So we're working towards that.
Yeah, no, that's a great response. Because I was going to say, like, a lot of organizations are out there that are trying to fight period poverty. I
Yeah.
mean, the Compass itself just started an initiative to partner up with some organizations, but I know even our focus is on different countries in Africa. But I know
Yeah,
for me personally, in my community, we're still facing period poverty here in
absolutely.
the
Yeah.
Midwestern United States. And people just don't really realize it or talk about it. So frequently, we're out at the grocery store and we see these rows and rows of pads and tampons, and they're incredibly expensive. And so
Yes,
it's never quite discussed, like, okay, what happens when people have a low income and it's the choice between pads or
exactly.
getting food to live off of. So yeah, that's absolutely amazing that you're working in your local community. But then in the future, you were talking about policy implementations. What do you think needs to be done in order to make pads and other feminine hygiene products more accessible to people?
I personally feel like this is something that should be free. I know we did get the tampon tax removed, but I just don't feel that's enough because they're still expensive. It's just like, toilet paper. You don't pay for it. You have it already in the washroom. So why don't you have pads and tampons? Because they're a basic necessity and they shouldn't be treated as a luxury. So I do feel like they should be free. And I also saw recently that I think in British Columbia, they are gonna have like free contraceptive pills. So I feel like that's great. That is awesome. And I would definitely say, yeah, just like having free period products in workplace, in educational institutions would be great. And I also feel that we should have the reusable cloth pad sewing sessions. I feel like that should be in the home economics, the syllabus. I feel like that would be great because when I partnered with one of the schools here, I did get a few responses from the groups at Memorial University where they were saying how, people in the LGBTQ plus community would love to like participate in that. So I feel like this is something that should be in the syllabus. And also, when it comes to menstrual health education, I think the last time I learned about menstruation was when I was 14 or 13, and then it just never cropped up in my life. So most of the things that I learn now are from the guest speakers that come for the Period Purdy Project podcast. And that's not okay because it's education. I need to know these things. I don't need to know it in detail, but I need to have some general knowledge. So I feel like more work needs to be done in the education system when it comes to menstrual health education.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I don't know if the Canadian education system, whenever you're doing sex education, which is where I
Yeah,
assume you guys talked about that at age 13, 14. I don't know how similar it is to the American education system, but I know for us, like we maybe said, okay, women experience their period and they'll start experiencing it at about age 11 or 12, which by 13 or 14, a lot of
yeah,
girls are already
yeah,
going through this. But then it doesn't go through like, okay, what are your different options? I know personally for me, I'd never heard of a menstrual cup until just a couple of months ago,
right?
actually. So it's
Yeah,
more sustainable for the environment. It's usually a more cost-effective solution for people. It prevents women from having to spend so much money.
yeah,
But then there's no education about how to implement those, like how to insert them. Even with
exactly,
creating your own cloth pads, I mean, I don't know anybody who does that.
exactly, yeah.
Even though that's also incredibly cost effective, and especially if you don't want to use a menstrual cup or that's uncomfortable. Um, but yeah, a lot of those conversations do need to be heard, and like women aren't taught about birth control and what are some of the effects of that and how can that help out with your period. So I think that
Exactly.
what you're doing is really great, and I'm
Thank
curious to
you.
hear more about introducing those other communities of people in, because I know one of the things about the Period Priority Project is that you guys have sort of, I guess, maybe redefines the term of woman whenever it comes to menstruation. And I want to know, like,
Yeah.
how have you been trying to incorporate more diversity into that term to apply to everybody who's menstruating?
Absolutely, yeah. So we're trying to discourage the gender discourse when it comes to menstruation, because not all women menstruate, not all cis women menstruate, and not all those who menstruate are cis women. Trans folks, non-binary, intersex individuals, two-spirit people may also menstruate. And when you use terms like feminine hygiene products or women slash girls who menstruate, you are dismissing the menstrual experience of other people who menstruate, and that is not okay. It should be inclusive. The discourse should be inclusive, and one way that we try to advance that is by, setting up the free menstrual product station in the gender inclusive washrooms. And also when doing presentations at school, I've also tried to start the conversation on that. And also through our podcast, I guess we're trying to get like more diverse voices there, just to kind of amplify their experience, because this is normal. More than half of the global population, like, they have their periods, and I feel like we should be free to talk about it. We should feel confident to talk about it, because you don't know when you have to ask questions. So that's not okay. You need to know that there are resources available, and you need to know when you need to reach out for these resources. So it's really important that the discourse is inclusive, so that you matter, your experience matter, everything is valid, and you should have the liberty, you should have the confidence, and you should feel safe to ask questions.
I definitely agree with that. That's amazing that you guys are trying to include so
Yeah.
many different voices in the conversation, especially since the conversation overall isn't had very often.
Yes.
But now I sort of want to shift gears into talking about like your project management and project implementation. So you said that you're the one who runs this, and right now you're the only person. However, I assume that that's going to change here in the near
Yes.
future. But just as a young change maker, you're what, 20 years old, I would assume? 20?
Do I look 20?
19?
Oh, I'm flattered, but no, I just turned 25 this January. I get that all the time, though. I feel like it's a compliment, so thank you.
All right, a little bit of a miscalculation, but you're still a very young change maker.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm wondering about what has been your process from like having that initial idea of, oh, I want to do this, I want to start the period priority project, to creating some of those partnerships with local shelters, you said, and schools. Like, how have you been able to do that and be able to get more people in your community on board, at least with sort of the distribution?
So when I first I made a Twitter account for Peer Parade Project, and I just like shared a poster about what I want to do with this project, and how you can like contact me for monetary donations and in-kind donations. And I sent over 80 emails to like different not-for-profits and different people that I thought would be able to help based on like what they do and where they work. And I only got 2 responses. So they were from the St. John's Status of Women Council, and they donated around 300 pads and tampons. And I also got a check of $1,000 from the Association for New Canadians. So the project started thanks to these 2 organizations. And how I went on about it at that time was I would contact women's shelters, homeless shelters, and indigenous organizations, and just ask them if they're low in period supply, because sometimes they do have a surplus, and I just wanted to make sure that the donations are going to organizations who need them. So, and then we would just like schedule a time to meet, and then I would drop it off. And I think in 4 days, I was able to drop off like 400 menstrual products, and the Peer Priority Project got recognized in the House of Assembly. The speaker spoke about the project when the House was in session. And then I posted it on Twitter, and everyone just started like retweeting and just talking about it. And I got donations. Shelters and organizations, they started reaching out to me and asked me if I could drop off donations for them. So initially it was just supposed to be a summer project, and then in the fall I would just go back to classes, and that was it. But the fact that other organizations started reaching out to me and asked me if I could drop off products for them, so this is why I kept going because I realized that this is a much needed, initiative in the province. And then we expanded from like dropping off to local shelters, and then it went to like shipping them off to Yukon, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, Prince Edward Island. So it was pretty much a bit everywhere around Canada.
That is
Yeah.
fantastic. So basically, the moral of the story is be persistent. Don't give
Yes.
up whenever
Yes.
you're trying to get through that first phase of fundraising. And then as soon as
Absolutely.
things take off, then it's like, okay, now you're
Yeah.
in it for the long haul.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then how did you end up expanding from just trying to provide pads and
Yeah.
tampons and other products like that to then branching out to the schools, like providing resources there, doing the workshops, and then your podcast? Because it sounds like from what you've been saying that your podcast is sort of your passion project
Oh, yes.
in regards to all of this.
Yep. So, when initially, so it was just like distributing pads and tampons. And as the project grew, more people started hearing about it and they started like donating. And then I educated myself on like what other period equity movements are doing, and I started to see what can be done here, what do we not have here. So then I thought about the right of choice. So everyone should feel free to choose whatever menstrual product they feel most comfortable using, and especially since we discussed the menstrual cup, how they're sustainable and kinder to the planet, but also they're not affordable to many folks who menstruate. So that's one example of period shaming, where like some people like would shame people for using one menstrual product over another. And that is also what we try to like work towards, just trying to make people understand that the menstrual experience is different for everyone has been through different things in their life, and so they should be free to choose whatever menstrual product they wish to use. And so it then grew from disposable pads and tampons to menstrual cups, period underwear, and yeah. So and then the a professor from the school reached out to me, and then he told me that he got a donation of fabric. He's a textile professor. So, and then he talked about how he wanted to do this project of reusable cloth pad sewing workshops. And he asked me if I wanted to collaborate with him. And it was super exciting because, we don't have that here. I never heard of it. So I thought, well, yes, I feel like this is a great initiative. And I just hopped on board. It's been great. It's been great. The students are great. They're amazing. They've tried like different models of period underwear, because we also have to do the trials to see which one is best, which one is more comfortable. And then what else did we do? I guess just, with every new initiative, for me, it was like, what else can I do to advance period equity? What other areas am I not looking at? So when it went from the right to choice, and then I was like, well, what can I do to increase the conversation, to just destigmatize, the taboo around it? And that's when the podcast came through. And I'm actually doing that with Memorial University's like radio station. The program director is so kind. Her name is Rhea. She's been super supportive since day one. And yeah, so at first I had one guest speaker. So Katie Hayward, she's an Indigenous wellness navigator. And I guess after the first episode, a lot of people started reaching out, about how they wanted to share about their experience. And I feel like I just felt so empowered, because I haven't heard that for a long time. I haven't heard people being so willing and so open to like talk about different period experiences, So it was super empowering. And then the forums, the People Who Period initiative, that also took off. I was super happy about it, because in the first few weeks I didn't get any responses, but then people started sharing, and it was nice. It was nice to see that. Yeah, so now I also thought of art form. So what is a youth view of period equity using art? So we're going to do a zine workshop soon. That's in the works. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, And I'm currently working on trying to like getting people involved, because a lot of people from the university and from the community have reached out and said that, you know, they want to get involved with the project. But since I didn't know that the project would grow this big, or that I would continue doing it, so you know, I'm still new to like navigating it. So I just wanted to like know what I'm doing, know what I want, know the goals of it, and then try to like get people to like help me and get involved. So yeah, and I can now say that I'm like actively working on, you know, getting like volunteers. So I am working on that, and I guess that should be ready over the summer. There's like
Mhm.
different roles and stuff, so it should be fun. Yeah.
That sounds amazing. Yeah. So basically, as a change maker, you've gone through the stages of you have the idea, you've put it into place, you've seen growth, and now you've sort of redefined like what is the long-term purpose, what are the long-term goals of this project, and
Yeah,
now you're able to properly expand. Yeah, so that's a
absolutely.
great lesson to anybody out there who's listening who may want to start a project of their own. And I guess what are some of the biggest takeaways that you have for people who want to start similar projects or just projects in general that are trying to benefit people and really take a look at a humanitarian issue in the world?
Well, first of all, never give up. That's like definitely, because especially like when you're starting something, it's gonna be a rocky start, obviously, because you know, a lot of people don't really know the project yet. They haven't seen the results, because obviously, you know, you just started it. So I mean, myself, I would need to see like the results to know that I feel confident enough to, you know, donate and see that there's transparency and see that the organization is meeting its goal. So never give up. Like if you had the idea, it means that you have the power within you to make that change. So go with it. Just like it doesn't matter how long it takes, just like give it your all, don't give up. And also do a lot of research, especially since you're passionate about making a change in one area. Make sure you do a lot of research about what is going on in that, what other organizations are doing, what the government has said about it. That way, you know what you can do, how you can work around it. So do your research, never give up, and you are a change maker. The fact that you got the idea, it means you're a change maker. You have it in you. If you need to reach out, you know, community collaboration is key. Reach out to people. There are so many like-minded folks who want to help you, who want to make a change. It's a great networking opportunity as well.
Mm-hmm. And just for anybody out there who's listening, so far since Leisha started her project, what was it? Not even a whole year ago at this point.
Yeah, I think we're gonna celebrate a year in May.
Yeah, so in 10
Yeah.
months, everybody,
Yeah.
Leisha has gotten 17,000 pads and other products. I guess I keep saying pads, but it's sort of all of the above. Leisha has had over 17,000 different products that have been donated to different women in need. So let that stick with you. Anyway, Leisha, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciated having you on here.
Thank you so much. It's an absolute honor. And you're doing so great and so awesome. So thank you. Thank you for all you do for the community.
All right, thank you.